The snow fell so thick that Zara Finch could barely see her horse's ears as she urged the mare forward through the blinding whiteness. Knowing somewhere ahead a woman screamed in labor, and time was running short. The wind howled like a pack of wolves around her, tearing at her wool coat and threatening to rip the medical bag from where she had tied it securely to her saddle. January of 1879, in Wyoming territory, was unforgiving, and Rock Springs sat in a valley that seemed to collect winter storms like a bowl collecting rain. But Zara had made a promise when she became a midwife 3 years ago at the age of 21, that no woman would face childbirth alone if she could possibly reach her, and she intended to keep that promise even if it meant riding through hell itself. The Carmichael homestead was supposed to be 2 miles north of town, but in this weather, Zara could have ridden past it 3 times without knowing. Her fingers were numb inside her leather gloves, and ice crystals clung to her eyelashes, making it hard to keep her eyes open. The mare, a sturdy buckskin named Honey, plodded forward with her head down, trusting Zara to guide her through the storm. They had been riding for what felt like hours, though it could not have been more than 40 minutes since old Doc Henderson had pounded on her door with the news that Mary Carmichael had gone into early labor and the baby was coming wrong. "Just a bit further, girl," Zara murmured to Honey, though the wind snatched her words away. She squinted ahead, trying to make out any landmark, any sign of the homestead. Her father would have told her she was crazy for riding out in this weather. Her father would have been right. But her father had died 2 years ago, and her mother had followed him 6 months later, leaving Zara alone in the world except for her calling. Being a midwife was not just what she did. It was who she was. Through the curtain of snow, she thought she saw a darker shape. She urged Honey toward it, hope rising in her chest. As they drew closer, the shape resolved into a fence post, then another, then a barn. Thank God. Zara guided Honey toward the barn, dismounted with stiff legs, and led the mare inside out of the wind. The sudden absence of the howling storm made her ears ring. "Hello," she called out. "I am Zara Finch, the midwife." A door at the far end of the barn opened, spilling yellow lamplight across the hay-strewn floor. A man stepped through, tall and broad-shouldered, his face shadowed by the light behind him. "Miss Finch, we have been praying you would make it. I am Seth Forrester. I work for the Carmichaels." Zara grabbed her medical bag and hurried toward him. As she got closer, she could see him better. He was perhaps 25 or 26, with dark hair that fell over his forehead and gray eyes that watched her with obvious relief. He wore the typical garb of a ranch hand, denim trousers and a heavy wool shirt, but there was something about the way he carried himself that suggested he was more than just a cowhand. There was confidence there and intelligence in those gray eyes. "How is she?" Zara asked, not wasting time on pleasantries. "Scared. In pain. The baby has been coming since this morning, but nothing is happening. Her husband rode to town for help hours ago and has not returned. I think the storm caught him." Seth's voice was steady, but Zara could hear the worry underneath. "Take me to her." Seth led her from the barn to the house, a small but well-built structure that stood against the wind. Inside, the warmth hit Zara like a wave. A fire roared in the hearth, and on a bed in the corner, a young woman lay writhing in pain. Zara recognized Mary Carmichael from church. She could not be more than 19, with blonde hair dark with sweat and blue eyes wide with fear. "Miss Finch," Mary gasped. "Thank God. Something is wrong. Something is wrong with my baby." Zara moved to her side immediately, setting down her bag and removing her coat. "I am here now, Mary. Let me examine you and we will see what is happening." For the next few minutes, Zara focused entirely on her patient, her skilled hands probing gently, her mind cataloging what she felt. The baby was breech. That explained why labor had stalled. The child was trying to come feet first, and without help, neither mother nor baby would survive. Seth, Zara said calmly, though her heart was racing, I need you to boil water and bring me clean cloths, as many as you can find. Is the baby going to die? Mary sobbed. Is my baby going to die? Not if I can help it, Zara said firmly, taking Mary's hand. But I need you to be strong for me. Can you do that? Mary nodded, tears streaming down her face. Zara had turned a breech baby before, but only once, and that had been under Doc Henderson's supervision. Now she was alone in the middle of a blizzard, with a terrified mother and a baby who was running out of time. She pushed the fear down deep and let her training take over. Seth returned with the water and cloths. What can I do? He asked. Stay close. I might need you to hold her still. Zara began to prepare, washing her hands thoroughly, laying out her instruments. Mary, I am going to try to turn the baby. It is going to hurt, but I need you to stay as still as you can. The next 30 minutes were the longest of Zara's life. She worked with steady hands and whispered prayers, manipulating the baby carefully through Mary's belly, feeling for the tiny body inside, coaxing it to turn. Mary screamed and Seth held her shoulders, murmuring words of encouragement. Sweat dripped down Zara's face despite the cold that seeped through the walls, and then, suddenly, she felt it. The baby turned. The head dropped down into the birth canal. That is it, Zara breathed. Mary, your baby is ready to be born. On the next contraction, I need you to push with everything you have. Mary pushed. She pushed until her face turned red, until the veins stood out on her neck. Zara guided the baby, her hands gentle but sure. And then, with a final push and a gush of fluid, the baby slid into Zara's waiting hands. For one terrible moment, the baby did not move, did not breathe. Zara's heart stopped. Then she cleared the infant's mouth and nose, rubbed its back vigorously, and was rewarded with a thin, angry wail that was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. A boy, Zara said, her voice thick with emotion. Mary, you have a son. Mary sobbed with joy as Zara cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft cloth before placing him in his mother's arms. The afterbirth came quickly, and Zara checked to make sure Mary was not bleeding too heavily. Everything looked good. Mother and baby were both going to be fine. Zara sat back on her heels, suddenly exhausted. Her hands were shaking. Seth brought her a cup of water and she drank it gratefully. That was incredible, he said quietly. I have seen colts born, calves, foals, but never a human child. You saved them both. It is my job, Zara said, but she could not help the small smile that curved her lips. It is more than a job, Seth said. What you did took courage and skill. Not many people would ride through a blizzard like that. Zara looked at him properly for the first time since she had arrived. His gray eyes were warm with admiration, and something in her chest fluttered unexpectedly. She looked away, suddenly self-conscious. I should clean up, she said. The storm raged on outside, and it quickly became clear that Zara would not be riding back to town that night. Mary and the baby both needed monitoring, and the wind was blowing so hard that venturing outside would be suicide. Seth made up a pallet for Zara near the fire, and she dozed fitfully, waking every hour to check on Mary and the baby. Around midnight, she woke to find Seth sitting by the fire, whittling a piece of wood. He looked up when she stirred. Could not sleep, she asked softly, not wanting to wake Mary. I am used to keeping watch, Seth said. Spent years riding night herd, I sleep light now. Zara sat up, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. You said you work for the Carmichaels. For now. I have been drifting for a while, picking up work where I can find it. I came here about 3 months ago. He paused. What about you? How did you become a midwife? My mother was one. I learned from her. Zara stared into the fire, remembering. She always said bringing life into the world was the most important work a woman could do. When she died, I felt like I had to carry on for her. She would be proud of you, Seth said. Zara felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them away. Thank you. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the wind howl and the fire crackle. Zara found herself watching Seth's hands as he whittled, noticing the way his long fingers moved with practiced ease. There was something calming about his presence, something solid and dependable. "Where are you from originally?" she asked. "Colorado. My family had a ranch near Denver." Had being the important word. His jaw tightened. "Lost it 5 years ago. Drought, debt, bad luck. My father drank himself to death over it, and my mother went back east to live with her sister. I have been on my own since then." "I am sorry," Zara said softly. Seth shrugged. "It is in the past. I learned that you cannot change what is behind you. You can only keep moving forward." "Is that why you drift?" "Partly. Also looking for the right place to settle, somewhere that feels like home." He looked at her. "What about you? Do you plan to stay in Rock Springs?" "I do not know. I have my practice here, such as it is. But sometimes I wonder what else is out there." Zara surprised herself with the admission. She had not told anyone that she sometimes felt restless, trapped in the small town where everyone knew her story. "You could go anywhere," Seth said. "A midwife is needed everywhere, especially out here where doctors are scarce." "Maybe," Zara said, "but leaving feels like giving up on something. Or maybe it is reaching for something new." Zara looked at him, and their eyes met across the firelight. Something passed between them, something she could not name but could feel all the same. It made her breath catch and her pulse quicken. She looked away first, suddenly flustered. "I should try to get some more sleep," she said. "Of course. Good night, Miss Finch." "Good night. And Seth." "You can call me Zara." His smile was slow and warm. "Good night, Zara." The storm blew itself out by morning, leaving the world blanketed in pristine white. Zara checked Mary and the baby one more time. Both were doing well. The baby nursed eagerly, and Mary's color was good. Around mid-morning they heard the sound of a horse approaching. Mary's husband, Thomas Carmichael, burst through the door, covered in snow and wild-eyed with worry. "Mary, the storm trapped me in town. I could not get back. Are you all right? Is the baby?" His eyes fell on the bundle in Mary's arms, and his face transformed with wonder. "We have a baby, a son," Mary said, smiling. "Thanks to Miss Finch." Thomas turned to Zara with gratitude shining in his eyes. "I do not know how to thank you. You rode through that storm to save them." "I am just glad I made it in time," Zara said. Thomas insisted on paying her handsomely, pressing gold coins into her hand despite her protests. Then Seth brought honey around from the barn, already saddled and ready. The mare looked rested and eager to move. "I will ride back with you," Seth said. "Make sure you get home safe." "You do not have to do that," Zara said. "I know, but I want to." They set out together, their horses' hooves crunching through the fresh snow. The sun shone brilliantly in a clear blue sky, making the snow sparkle like diamonds. It was hard to believe this was the same landscape that had been so threatening the night before. "It is beautiful," Zara said, looking around at the transformed world. "It is," Seth agreed, but when she glanced over, he was looking at her, not the scenery. Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks despite the cold. "Seth, I am sorry," he said quickly. "I do not mean to make you uncomfortable. It is just that I have not met anyone like you before. The way you handled everything last night, your strength and skill, it was remarkable." "You were pretty remarkable yourself," Zara said. "Mary needed someone calm and steady, and you were there for her." They rode in silence for a while, but it was a comfortable silence. the kind that happens between people who have shared something significant. When Rock Springs came into view, Zara felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. She was not ready for this ride to end, not ready to say goodbye to Seth. As they reached the edge of town, Seth cleared his throat. "Zara, I know I am just a drifting cowhand without much to offer, but I would be honored if you would let me call on you sometime. If you are interested, that is." Zara's heart leaped. "I would like that," she said softly. Seth's face broke into a grin that transformed his serious features. "Really, really. You can find me at the house on Cedar Street, the one with the green door. I will remember that." When they reached her house, Seth helped her down from Honey, his hands lingering on her waist perhaps a moment longer than necessary. Zara found she did not mind at all. "Thank you for seeing me home," she said. "Thank you for letting me," Seth replied. He tipped his hat. "I will see you soon, Zara Finch." She watched him ride away, a smile playing at her lips. She had ridden through a blizzard and delivered a breech baby, and somehow in the midst of all that drama, she had met someone who made her heart race faster than any storm ever could. True to his word, Seth appeared at her door 3 days later. He had cleaned up, shaved, and wore a clean shirt under his coat. He held his hat in his hands and looked almost nervous. "I hope I am not calling at a bad time," he said. "Not at all. Come in out of the cold." Zara had spent an embarrassing amount of time that morning tidying her small house, which consisted of a front room that served as her office and sitting room, a tiny kitchen, and a bedroom in the back. It was not much, but it was hers, and she had made it comfortable with rag rugs and curtains she had sewn herself. Seth looked around with interest. "This is nice, cozy. Can I offer you coffee? That would be wonderful." They sat at her small kitchen table, cups of hot coffee warming their hands. At first, the conversation was a bit stilted, both of them unsure how to navigate this new territory. But gradually they relaxed into it. Seth told her about his travels, the places he had seen, the jobs he had worked. Zara talked about her training as a midwife, the women she had helped, the babies she had brought into the world. "How many?" Seth asked. 83, Zara said. 84 now, counting Mary's baby. "And you remember them all, every single one. Each birth is unique, special." "I could tell you about all of them." Seth leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You love what you do. I do. It is not always easy. I have lost mothers. I have lost babies. Those are the nights that haunt me. But when everything goes right, when I place a healthy baby in its mother's arms and see that look of pure joy, there is nothing else like it in the world." "I understand that," Seth said. "I felt that way about ranching once. Working with the cattle, the horses, watching something grow from nothing. It was satisfying in a way that nothing else has been since." "Why did you stop?" "Lost the ranch, like I said, but it is more than that. After my father died, the heart went out of it for me. I kept thinking if I drifted long enough, far enough, I would find something that made me feel that way again." He paused. "Maybe I have been looking in the wrong places. Maybe you just have not found the right place yet. Maybe." Seth looked at her intently. "Or maybe I have, and I just need to recognize it." Zara felt that flutter in her chest again, that sense of possibility. "Seth, I should go," he said, standing abruptly. "I have taken up enough of your time." But 2 days later he was back, and then 3 days after that. Soon, his visits became a regular part of Zara's routine. He would stop by in the evenings when his work at the Carmichael Ranch was done, and they would sit together and talk. Sometimes he brought her things, a book he thought she might enjoy, a jar of honey from a farm outside town, wildflowers in the spring when the snow finally melted. Rock Springs began to thaw as February gave way to March. The streets turned to mud, and the creek that ran through town swelled with runoff. Zara was called out to several births, and each time, Seth made sure she got home safely, riding alongside her no matter what time of day or night. "You do not have to do this," Zara told him after one particularly difficult delivery that had lasted most of the night. Dawn was breaking over the mountains, painting the sky pink and gold. "I know I do not have to," Seth said. "I want to. I worry about you riding alone. I have been doing this for 3 years. I can take care of myself. I know you can, but that does not mean you should have to." Zara looked at him, at the stubborn set of his jaw and the concern in his gray eyes, and felt something give way inside her. She had been alone for so long, standing on her own, relying on no one. It was both frightening and wonderful to realize that she did not have to be alone anymore, that this man wanted to be by her side. "All right," she said softly. "Thank you." Spring arrived in earnest, and with it came new life. Calves were born on the ranches, foals wobbled on spindly legs, and in town, 3 babies arrived within 2 weeks of each other. Zara was kept busy, but she was happy. Happier than she had been in a long time, and she knew it had everything to do with Seth. They had not spoken of the future, had not defined what they were to each other. But one warm evening in April, as they sat on the porch of her house watching the sun set, Seth reached over and took her hand. His palm was warm and calloused against hers. "Zara," he said, "I need to tell you something." Her heart began to pound. "What is it?" "I have been offered a job as foreman on a ranch up near Laramie. It is good pay, steady work, a real position with prospects." He paused. "I would be leaving in 2 weeks." Zara felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "Oh, the thing is," Seth continued, still holding her hand, "I do not want to go, not without you." She looked at him, hardly daring to hope. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I am in love with you, Zara Finch. I think I have been since the night you rode through that blizzard with snow in your hair and determination in your eyes. I am saying that I do not want to drift anymore. I want to stay in one place, build a life, have a home. But only if that life, that home, includes you." Tears sprang to Zara's eyes. "Seth, You do not have to answer right now," he said quickly. "I know this is sudden. I know I do not have much to offer, but I am a hard worker and I would spend every day trying to make you happy. I would support your work as a midwife, be there for you when you need me, ride through life's storms beside you always." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning and promise. Zara thought about the life she had built for herself in Rock Springs, small and safe. Then she thought about the life Seth was offering, full of possibility and partnership. "I do not need time," she said, her voice shaking. "I know my answer. It is yes. Yes, I will go with you. Yes, I will build a life with you. Yes to all of it." Seth's face lit up like the sun breaking through clouds. "You mean it." "I mean it. I love you too, Seth. I was just afraid to say it, afraid you would leave." "I am never leaving you," Seth said fiercely. He cupped her face in his hands. "May I kiss you, please?" Zara whispered. His lips met hers, gentle at first, then deeper as she responded. Zara felt like she was flying and falling at the same time, dizzy with joy and relief and desire. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Seth rested his forehead against hers. "We should get married," he said. "Before we go to Laramie, I want you to be my wife." "Yes," Zara said, laughing through her tears. "Yes, let us get married." They were married 2 weeks later in the small church in Rock Springs. Mary Carmichael was there with her baby, now thriving and plump. Thomas Carmichael served as Seth's best man. Half the town turned out, all the women Zara had helped over the years, all the families she had served. The traveling preacher who made the circuit through the mining towns performed the ceremony. Zara wore a simple dress of pale blue cotton that had been her mother's, altered to fit her. Seth wore his best shirt and a new vest he had bought specially for the occasion. When he saw her walking toward him down the aisle, his eyes grew bright with tears. "Dearly beloved," the preacher began. Zara barely heard the words. She was too focused on Seth, on the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When it came time for the vows, his voice was strong and sure. "I, Seth Forrester, take you, Zara Finch, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, for as long as we both shall live. I promise to ride through all of life's storms beside you always." Zara's own vows were just as heartfelt. "I, Zara Finch, take you, Seth Forrester, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, for as long as we both shall live. I promise to be your partner, your companion, your home." When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Seth kissed her to thunderous applause. Zara felt like her heart might burst with happiness. The town gave them a wedding supper in the church hall, with food brought by everyone who attended. There was roasted venison and fresh bread, vegetables preserved from last year's harvest, and pies made with the first strawberries of the season. Someone brought out a fiddle, and there was dancing. Seth swept Zara into his arms and spun her around until she was breathless with laughter. "Happy?" he asked, his lips close to her ear. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied. They spent their wedding night in Zara's little house on Cedar Street, the house that would soon belong to someone else. In the morning, they would begin their journey to Laramie and their new life together. But for now, there was just the two of them, learning each other, loving each other, beginning the journey that would last the rest of their lives. Seth was gentle and patient, and when Zara cried, he kissed her tears away and told her she was beautiful. They fell asleep tangled together, and Zara thought she had never felt so safe, so cherished, so completely at home. The journey to Laramie took 4 days. They traveled in a wagon loaded with Zara's belongings and supplies, with Honey and Seth's horse tied behind. The weather was perfect, warm but not hot, with endless blue skies. They camped under the stars at night, and Seth taught Zara how to make coffee over an open fire. She taught him some of the songs her mother had sung to her as a child. "You have a pretty voice," Seth said, lying beside her and looking up at the vast canopy of stars. "My mother sang all the time, while she worked, while she cooked, while she delivered babies. She said singing made everything easier. She sounds like she was a wonderful woman. She was. I wish you could have met her. She would have liked you." Seth turned on his side to look at her. "Why do you think that? Because you are kind. Because you are honest. Because you see me for who I really am and love me anyway." "Not anyway," Seth corrected. "I love you because of who you really are. Your courage, your compassion, your dedication. You are extraordinary, Zara." She kissed him, long and slow, and they made love under the stars with only the night sky as their witness. They arrived in Laramie on a Thursday afternoon. The town was bigger than Rock Springs, more established, with actual brick buildings and even a small hospital. The ranch where Seth would be working was 10 miles outside of town, a sprawling operation that ran several hundred head of cattle. The owner, a man named William Barrett, was a stocky man in his 50s with shrewd eyes and a firm handshake. He welcomed them warmly and showed them to the foreman's house, a 2-room cabin that was significantly larger than Zara's house in Rock Springs. "It is not much," Barrett said, "but it is sturdy and you will have privacy. My wife and I live in the main house. You will take your meals with us unless you prefer otherwise." "This is perfect," Zara said, looking around. The cabin had a pot-belly stove, a table with 2 chairs and a real bed frame. The windows had glass, not just oiled paper. "Mrs. Forrester," Barrett said, My wife tells me you are a midwife. I am. We have several families who work this ranch, and most of the wives are young and in their childbearing years. I am sure your skills will be much appreciated. There is a doctor in town, but he is not always available, especially for women's concerns. I would be happy to help anyone who needs me, Zara said. After Barrett left, Seth wrapped his arms around Zara from behind and rested his chin on top of her head. What do you think? Can you be happy here? Zara leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of his body. I can be happy anywhere, as long as I am with you. They settled into their new life with surprising ease. Seth took to his duties as foreman naturally, his experience and knowledge quickly earning him the respect of the ranch hands. Zara set up a small practice, and word spread quickly that there was a midwife on the Barrett ranch. Women came from neighboring ranches, even from town, seeking her services. By summer, Zara was delivering babies regularly. She delivered the wife of one of the ranch hands, a sturdy woman named Ellen who had 5 other children, and declared that Zara had the gentlest hands of any midwife she had known. She delivered the daughter of a shopkeeper from town, a nervous first-time mother who gripped Zara's hand so hard she left bruises. Seth was always there when she came home, no matter how late the hour. He would have food waiting, would help her out of her coat, would hold her when the delivery had been difficult. On the nights when she lost a baby or a mother, he was there to catch her tears, to remind her that she had done everything she could, that sometimes life was cruel despite the best efforts. You save so many, he would tell her. Remember that. Remember all the ones you have saved. Summer turned to fall, and Zara realized she had not had her monthly courses in quite some time. At first, she attributed it to the stress of the move, the change in routine. But when her breasts began to feel tender, and she found herself nauseous in the mornings, she could no longer deny what was happening. She was pregnant. Zara was checking on her own baby through the changes in her body, experiencing firsthand what she had helped so many other women through. It was strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. She waited to tell Seth until she was absolutely sure, until she was almost 3 months along and starting to show a small bump. She picked an evening when he came home early, when the light was golden and soft through the windows. She had made his favorite meal, beef stew with fresh bread, and she waited until they had finished eating before she spoke. Seth, I have something to tell you. He looked up from his coffee, immediately alert. What is it? Is something wrong? No, nothing is wrong. Something is very, very right. She reached across the table and took his hand, placing it on her stomach. We are going to have a baby. Seth's eyes went wide. A baby, you are sure? I am sure. I am almost 3 months along. The baby should arrive in early spring. Seth stood up so fast his chair fell over. He came around the table and pulled Zara into his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. We are having a baby. Zara, we are having a baby, she laughed, dizzy and delighted by his reaction. Yes, we are. He set her down carefully as if she were made of glass. Are you all right? Do you need to sit down? Should you be working? I am fine. Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. I am not going to stop working just because I am pregnant. But Seth worried anyway. He was constantly asking if she was feeling well, if she needed anything, if she was doing too much. Zara found it both endearing and exasperating. When she was called out to a difficult birth in November, Seth insisted on coming with her despite the fact that he knew nothing about midwifery. I will stay out of the way, he promised, but I want to be there in case you need me. As it turned out, his presence was a comfort. The laboring mother, a young woman named Sarah, was frightened and alone, her husband having died in a mining accident 2 months earlier. Seth sat with her, held her hand, spoke to her in a low, calming voice while Zara worked. When the baby finally arrived, a healthy girl with a shock of dark hair, Sarah wept with relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she said to both of them. "I do not think I could have done it alone." "You are stronger than you know," Zara told her, "and you will not be alone. We will make sure you and your daughter are taken care of." On the ride home, Seth was quiet. When they reached the cabin, he helped Zara down from the wagon and held her close. "What you do matters so much," he said. "I knew it before, but seeing it tonight, it really hit me. You give people hope. You give them life." "We give them hope," Zara corrected. "You were just as important tonight as I was. Sarah needed someone to believe in her, and you gave her that." Winter arrived early and hard. By December, the snow was piled high, and the temperatures dropped so low that water froze solid in the buckets overnight. Zara was 7 months pregnant now, moving more slowly, tiring more easily. She still took calls when women needed her, but Seth limited her to cases in town or on nearby ranches, refusing to let her travel far in her condition. "You are being overprotective," Zara told him. "I am being careful with the most precious thing in my life," Seth replied. "Both of the most precious things in my life." On Christmas Eve, a massive blizzard rolled in, worse than anything Zara had seen since the storm she had ridden through to reach Mary Carmichael. The wind shrieked around the cabin, and snow piled against the windows. Seth made sure they had plenty of wood for the fire and food stored away. They spent Christmas Day inside, warm and cozy despite the fury outside. Seth had carved a small wooden horse for the baby, working on it in secret for weeks. Zara had knitted a soft blanket, pale yellow, because they did not know if they were having a boy or a girl. "I do not care which it is," Seth said, his hand on Zara's belly, feeling the baby kick. "As long as you both come through healthy." "We will," Zara assured him. "I have delivered enough babies to know what to expect. That is what worries me. You know all the things that can go wrong. I also know all the things that go right. Trust me, Seth. Trust us." The baby came on a mild day in March, when the first signs of spring were showing in the greening grass and the return of the birds. Zara woke at dawn with the first contractions, regular and strong. She timed them calmly while Seth paced and worried. "Should I get the doctor from town?" he asked. "Should I get one of the women from the ranch?" "You should sit down before you wear a hole in the floor," Zara said with a smile. "This is going to take a while." Seth did not sit down. He brought her water, helped her walk when she needed to move, held her when the contractions grew stronger. Around noon, Zara decided it was time, and she directed Seth to boil water and prepare the bed. "Are you sure you do not want me to get someone?" Seth asked, looking pale. "I want you," Zara said. "You are the only one I need." Delivering her own baby was the hardest thing Zara had ever done, but it was also the most triumphant. With Seth's support and encouragement, she brought their child into the world just as the sun was setting, painting the cabin walls in shades of gold and rose. "A boy," Zara breathed, cradling the tiny, perfect infant against her chest. "Seth, we have a son." Seth was crying openly, tears streaming down his face as he looked at his wife and newborn child. "He is perfect. You are perfect. I love you so much." They named him Samuel, after Seth's grandfather. He had dark hair like his father and blue eyes that would eventually turn gray. He was healthy and strong, with a lusty cry that announced his displeasure whenever he was hungry or wet. Zara recovered quickly from the birth, and within 2 weeks, she was back to seeing patients, though she kept Samuel with her always. The women who came to her cooed over the baby and asked her advice about their own children. Zara found that motherhood gave her a new perspective on her work, a deeper understanding of the fears and hopes of the women she served. Samuel grew quickly. hitting each milestone right on time. He smiled at 6 weeks, laughed at 3 months, sat up at 6 months. Seth was a devoted father, spending every spare moment with his son. He built a cradle from pine carved toys, sang lullabies in a surprisingly pleasant baritone. When Samuel was a year old, walking and getting into everything, Zara discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the news was less surprising but no less joyful. Their second child, a daughter they named Sarah after the woman Zara had helped, arrived the following spring. She had her mother's dark hair and her father's gray eyes, and from the moment she was born, she had Seth wrapped around her tiny finger. The years passed in a blur of work and family and love. Zara continued her practice as a midwife, delivering hundreds more babies over the years. She became known throughout the region, and women traveled from as far as 50 miles away to have her attend their births. Seth rose in position and respect, eventually becoming a partner in the Barrett Ranch when William Barrett decided to retire. They bought their own land, just a few acres at first, where they built a larger house with enough room for their growing family. Samuel was followed by Sarah. Sarah by another son they named Matthew. Matthew by twin girls they named Mary and Margaret. 5 children in 10 years, the cabin filled with noise and laughter and love. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Seth took Zara on a picnic to a meadow high in the hills above their ranch. It was a beautiful summer day, warm and bright, with wildflowers blooming in every color imaginable. They left the children with Seth's foreman and his wife, stealing away for a few precious hours alone. "You remember the first time we met?" Seth asked as they lay side by side in the grass, looking up at the clouds. "How could I forget? I thought I might die in that blizzard. I thought you were the bravest person I had ever seen. Still do, actually." Zara rolled over to look at him. 10 years of marriage had added some lines around his eyes, some gray at his temples, but he was still the same man who had asked her to ride through life's storms beside him. "I was just doing my job." "You are always just doing your job, but what you do not see is how extraordinary you are. All those women you have helped, all those babies you have brought into the world, all those lives you have touched. You are a hero, Zara." "So are you," she said softly. "You have given me everything I ever wanted. A home, a family, a partnership. You have supported my work, believed in me, stood by me through everything." "It has not been a hardship," Seth said with a smile. "Loving you is the easiest thing I have ever done." They kissed, sweet and slow, with the sun warm on their faces and the breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers. Zara thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a blizzard in Rock Springs to this perfect moment. She thought about all the storms they had weathered together, literal and figurative, and how they had always come through stronger on the other side. "What are you thinking?" Seth asked. "I am thinking about what you said that day when you proposed, about riding through life's storms beside me. I meant it then and I mean it now. I know. And I am thinking about how grateful I am that you did, that we found each other in the middle of a storm and held on tight." Seth pulled her close, his arms secure around her. "I will always hold on tight. No matter what storms come, we will face them together." As the years went on, Seth and Zara became pillars of their community. Their ranch prospered, and they used their success to help others. When drought struck and several families faced ruin, Seth extended credit and worked to help them through. When a fever swept through the region, Zara worked tirelessly to care for the sick, using her knowledge of herbs and nursing to save many lives. Their children grew strong and healthy. Samuel showed an aptitude for ranching and worked alongside his father from a young age. Sarah inherited her mother's healing gift and began training as a midwife when she was 16. Matthew loved horses and became one of the best trainers in the territory. The twins, Mary and Margaret, were inseparable, and both showed talent for teaching, eventually starting a small school on the ranch for the children of the workers. When Samuel turned 20, he married a girl from town, a sweet-natured woman named Emma who fit into the family as if she had always been there. A year later, Emma gave birth to a daughter, making Seth and Zara grandparents for the first time. Zara delivered the baby herself, tears streaming down her face as she placed her granddaughter into Emma's arms. "You have a beautiful daughter," Zara said. "We are naming her Zara," Emma said, "after the bravest woman we know." Seth, watching from the doorway, saw his wife's face crumble with emotion and his own eyes filled with tears. That night, lying in bed, he held Zara close. "Our granddaughter has your name," he said. "Our legacy continues." "Our legacy is not just a name," Zara said. "It is in the lives we have touched, the people we have helped. It is in our children and their children. It is in the fact that we loved each other well." More grandchildren followed. Sarah married a doctor from Laramie, and together they set up a practice that served the entire region. Matthew married one of the twin daughters of the Barrett family and started his own horse ranch. The twins, Mary and Margaret, eventually married brothers and continued teaching. As Seth and Zara grew older, they slowly stepped back from the day-to-day work of the ranch and the practice. Seth handed over more and more responsibility to Samuel, while Zara trained Sarah and several other young women in the art of midwifery. But they never fully retired. Seth still rode the boundaries of his land every morning, and Zara still attended births when she was specifically requested. On their 25th wedding anniversary, their children threw them a party. Half the territory seemed to be in attendance, all the families they had helped over the years, all the lives they had touched. There were speeches and toasts, stories and laughter. But the moment Zara treasured most was at the end of the night, when Seth took her hand and led her outside under the stars. 25 years, he said, feels like yesterday and forever all at once. I know what you mean. Sometimes I still feel like that young woman riding through a blizzard, not knowing what was ahead. Are you glad you rode through that storm? Zara looked at him, at the face she knew better than her own, at the eyes that still looked at her with love and wonder. Every single day. That storm brought me to you, and you have been my home ever since. Seth kissed her forehead. You are my home too, my shelter in every storm. They stood together in the starlight, holding each other close. Two people who had found each other against all odds and built a life of meaning and purpose and love. The winters grew harder as they aged. When Zara was 63, a blizzard struck that reminded her of the one she had ridden through all those years ago. She stood at the window, watching the snow fall, and felt Seth's arms come around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "The night we met. The storm. How young and brave and stupid I was." "You were magnificent," Seth said. "You still are. We have had a good life, have we not? The best. The absolute best." Zara turned in his arms. His hair was white now, his face lined with age, but his eyes were the same, still gray and clear and full of love. "I would do it all again. Every moment, every storm, every challenge, all of it as long as it was with you." "Me too," Seth said. "Every single moment." They were blessed with 37 years together before Seth's heart gave out one morning while he was out riding the property he loved. He died doing what he loved, on the land he had built, surrounded by the legacy of his life. Zara held him as he took his last breath, whispering words of love and gratitude. She grieved deeply, but she did not break. Their children and grandchildren surrounded her with love and support. She continued her work as a midwife for another 5 years, finally retiring at the age of 70. She spent her remaining years surrounded by family, telling stories of the old days, of the blizzard that brought her to their grandfather, of the life they had built together. On a warm spring morning when the wildflowers were blooming and the sky was impossibly blue, Zara passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was buried beside Seth on a hill overlooking their ranch, with a simple stone that read, Zara Forrester, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, and midwife. She rode through every storm with courage and love. Their children gathered for the funeral, along with their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and what seemed like half of Wyoming. Person after person stood to speak about how Zara had touched their lives, how she had delivered them or their children, how she had been there in their darkest moments with skill and compassion. But perhaps the most fitting tribute came from their oldest daughter, Sarah, who had followed in her mother's footsteps as a midwife. Standing beside her parents' graves, with tears streaming down her face, she spoke of the legacy they had left behind. My mother once told me that she became a midwife because bringing life into the world was the most important work a woman could do. But what she taught me, what both my parents taught all of us, is that the most important work any of us can do is to love well, to show up for each other, to ride through life's storms together always. They did that. Through blizzards and droughts, through good times and hard times, through joy and sorrow, they were there for each other. They were there for all of us. And because of their example, because of the love they showed us, we know how to be there for each other. That is their legacy. Not just the lives they saved or the ranch they built, but the love they lived. So when storms come, and they will come, we will remember them. We will remember their courage and their commitment. We will remember that love is not just a feeling but a choice, a promise kept day after day, year after year. We will ride through whatever storms life brings together always, just like they did. The sun broke through the clouds as she spoke, casting light across the graves and the assembled mourners, like a benediction, like a promise. And in the years that followed, the family continued to grow and thrive, each generation passing down the story of Zara and Seth, the midwife and the cowboy who found each other in a blizzard and built a love that lasted beyond their lifetimes. Their great-great-grandchildren would eventually stand on that same hill, looking out over land that still bore the Forrester name, and they would tell the story to their own children. The story of a woman brave enough to ride through a blizzard to save a life, and a man who promised to ride through all of life's storms beside her. The story of a love that weathered every challenge and grew stronger with each passing year. The story of a legacy built not on wealth or fame, but on courage and compassion and commitment. And in the telling and retelling, the story became more than just history. It became a guiding light, a reminder that the storms of life are inevitable but need not be faced alone. That true partnership means showing up for each other, day after day, through blizzards and sunshine alike. That love, real love, is both the shelter and the journey, the destination and the path. The Forrester Ranch still stood 100 years later, though it had changed hands and purposes many times. The house Seth built had been added onto and modernized, but the original cabin where they had lived as newlyweds was preserved as a historical landmark. The graves on the hill were tended by the local historical society, and on anniversary of Zara's famous blizzard ride, people still came to pay their respects to the woman who had brought so much life into the world. But more than the physical structures they left behind, Seth and Zara's true legacy lived on in the lives they had touched. The midwifery practice Zara started continued for generations, training women in the art of bringing new life into the world. The values Seth instilled, hard work and integrity and community, became the foundation of numerous businesses and organizations throughout the region. Their descendants spread across the country, carrying with them the stories and lessons passed down through the generations. Doctors and teachers, ranchers and artists, business owners and community leaders, all of them shaped in some way by the example of two people who had loved each other well and lived their lives in service to others. In the end, that was what mattered most. Not the number of babies delivered or the size of the ranch built, but the love that had sustained them through every storm. The promise made and kept day after day, year after year, through blizzards and sunshine, through youth and age, through life and beyond. Ride through life's storms beside me always. Seth had said those words on a spring day when he was asking Zara to build a future with him. She had said yes, and together they had ridden through every storm that came their way. They had built a life of meaning and purpose, raised children who carried on their values, and loved each other with a devotion that became legendary. And if you stand on that hill at sunset, when the light turns everything gold and the wind carries the scent of wildflowers, you can almost feel their presence still. Two souls who found each other against all odds and held on tight, who proved that the greatest adventures are not found in distant lands, but in the commitment to ride through life's storms together, always and forever. Their story was simple in its way. A midwife rode through a blizzard. A cowboy promised to ride beside her through all of life's storms. They fell in love, built a life, raised a family, and left a legacy of courage and compassion that endured long after they were gone. It was a story as old as time and as fresh as the morning dew, a reminder that the greatest stories are not about perfection but about persistence, not about avoiding storms but about facing them together. And so the legend lived on, passed from generation to generation, a love story from the Wild West that captured something essential and true about the human experience, that we are all riding through storms of one kind or another, that the journey is easier when we have someone beside us. That promises made with love and kept with determination can weather any challenge. That in the end, what matters most is how we love and who we love and whether we show up for each other when the storms come howling in. Zara rode through a blizzard to save a life, and in doing so, found her own life's greatest adventure. Seth promised to ride beside her through all of life's storms, and he kept that promise until his last breath. Together, they proved that love is not just about the sunshine days, but about holding on tight when the wind howls and the snow blinds and the path ahead is uncertain. Their story ended as all stories must, with death and grief and the passage of time. But it also never ended, living on in the hearts and minds of all who heard it, inspiring countless others to make their own promises, to ride through their own storms, to love with the same fierce devotion and unwavering commitment. Because that is what we all want in the end. Someone to ride beside us through life's storms. Someone who will hold on tight when the winds blow and the snow falls and the way forward is unclear. Someone who will promise to be there always, and then keep that promise day after day, year after year, through whatever comes. Zara and Seth found that in each other on a cold winter night in Wyoming territory in 1879, and they held on to it for the rest of their lives. They rode through every storm together, building a legacy of love that lasted long after the blizzards cleared, and the storms passed, and their own journey came to its natural end. And that, in the end, is the greatest story any of us can tell. Not about perfection or ease or lives lived without challenge, but about two people who found each other, promised to ride through life's storms together, and kept that promise always. A midwife who rode through blizzards. A cowboy who rode beside her. A love story that proved the Wild West was not just about adventure and danger, but about finding home in another person and building a life worth living, one storm at a time, together always.